Hi and welcome to the basement. Today we're going to have a look at this unusual Macintosh. It's a Performa 5400, but this one, it's a little special. Now before we get started in today's video, I want to tell you about our sponsor, PCBWay. They are the place to go if you need any kind of PCB. Just look at how many colors that they can do. You've got all these cool colors, like there's the pink and the purple, the orange. I particularly like the white one with the gold, looks really smart. So if you're making any kind of project, PCBWay is really your one-stop shop. Not only can they help you with the design and building, they also do CNC machining and 3D printing. So you can get cases done and any other parts that you need. And another thing, in this current climate of rising prices, PCBWay are actually lowering their prices of their 4 to 6 layer PCBs. So now's a perfect time if you're thinking about making a project, head on over to PCBWay, they'll see you right. So a little bit about the Performa series. This really came from Apple's forgotten years. This is before Steve Jobs returned and they made such fancy products like, you know, the iBook and the iMac series that everyone knows and loves. And this was really in their doldrum period. Now, they had the PowerPC processor. They developed it in conjunction with IBM and Motorola, and it really was supposed to be their next step forward past the older Motorola 68000 series CPUs, which were showing their age. The problem was that Apple was short of cash, and so to save money, they got the PowerPC processor and they put it into an older designed motherboard that was designed for the older 68000 series CPUs. So you had a processor that was running quite fast, but a motherboard that was running quite slow. And so that hampered the performance of all of these machines. So they did tout the fact that it had a PowerPC processor in it, but they forgot to mention that it was not running at nearly the speed it could run at. Now, thankfully, by the time we ended up with the Performa 5400, they'd ironed out the problems in the motherboard and they had upgraded the speed of the PowerPC processors, leading to a machine with respectable performance. Not great, but not bad either. Now, what's so special about this machine? Well, first up, it's a strange color for this time period. Most Apple products during the 90s were a beige color. Now, the other unusual thing about this machine, which you might have spotted by now, is that it is the Directors Edition. What's the Directors Edition? Well, it's a very rare Mac that was only ever released in Australia, and it came with an extra 6 megabytes of memory, a slightly larger hard drive, and a TV tuner card installed inside. So yes, you could actually just add those things to your standard Performa and it's the exact same thing, but for some reason they decided to package it in, market it as the Director's Edition, and sell it for more. In fact, I have another Performa down here on the floor, which I'll show you. These things are heavy. So you can see this is the original Performa, the 5200 CD, and this is the one with severely compromised performance. It runs pretty slow, the processor's slow and the motherboard slows it down even further. This one has some damage to the front bezel, but I got it because on the back we can see that it has the same TV tuner card and the video in card as well as the Director's Edition. So there's actually nothing stopping you from just getting a old Performa and whacking in those extras and you've got a Director's Edition. But this one's way cooler because it's got the label and the black peripherals, which I think makes it look really smart. So this particular machine seems to boot up fine. It's got System 8 installed on it. It is so slow though. Every click is followed by this massive pause where you're waiting for something to happen. The other thing I'd like to do, I'm going to put a network card in this. That other beige Performa came with a network card, so I'm going to swap it into here. The other thing I want to do is I had this generous donation from Rich's Random Retro Reviews, and it is some L2 cache. So as part of the cost-saving measures, they shipped this thing with a processor without any L2 cache, and you could actually buy it separately and install it. These are quite rare, so big shout out to Rich's Random Retro Reviews. If you want to see any cool videos about old Macs, here's the place to go. He's got a great collection, especially fixing keyboards. He is the master at fixing keyboards. So thanks, Rich. We're going to throw this in the machine and we're going to see how much this improves performance. So first up, I just want to talk about the peripherals. They are the same as the beige peripherals, but they're that graphite color. So you've got the Apple Desktop Mouse 2, same as a beige one, but it's in the graphite color, which is quite nice. Now the keyboard is the same, but man, this one feels so cheap. Like if I pick it up, you can hear, ouch. It just sounds terrible, like the whole thing's about to break apart. And it's sort of bendy and it just feels super cheap and nasty. But it's a cool color, so I quite like it for that. So like most Macs of this era, they are soft power, so you just have to hit this button. And I've got to say, it is the nicest startup chime I've ever heard on a Macintosh. It's like the stereo rich sound coming out of those speakers. Great sounding Mac. Okay, we've loaded into the desktop and it's taken quite a while. And it's come up with this launcher thing here. So this is the previous owner's things on here. We're not going to go through it. So they got a few games and that sort of thing on here. But what I wanted to show you is if you open a folder, let's open budget, it takes forever for something to show up here. And there it is. So, and that's only 2 files. If you open something like the documents folder, okay, so finally it's loaded all of the files in here. Now, another thing you've noticed is some sort of funky old font on here, which makes it quite hard to read, and we're going to fix that up as well. So what I want to show you is the TV tuner card. So here we've got something called Apple Video Player, and that should enable us to see the TV on this computer. So it's loaded up, but there's something wrong. We've only got audio controls and MPEG playback controls. Now, if we go to Help, and we've got this handy guide, and so what we want to do is we want to add TV channels. So how do I add or remove TV channels? So it's telling us to click Setup and choose Channel Setup from the Setup menu. So if we click it, you see it's not there. There is no channel setup. So I can't, if I go right arrow now, it just says, oops, you didn't open it up. So go back and open it up, but it's not there. So there's something not quite right. It's either there's something dud with this installation, or the video tuner itself is broken. So we do have that spare one on the other Performa, but first we're going to put a new operating system on here, and with a fresh install, hopefully it has everything it needs and it will start working. So I've got the original disc, well, a copy of the original disc that shipped with these machines. Okay, we've booted into the system folder that's off the CD. Let's open up a folder. We'll open up that same budget folder and just see. And look, it just comes up straight away. So there's obviously something either wrong with that Mac OS 8 install, or maybe Mac OS 8 is just too much for this machine. Because you can see even that documents folder with all the files, that just came up straight away. So before we install, what we want to do is actually clear this disk. We're going to format this disk. It does have someone else's personal data on there, so I definitely want to just format it and make it a fresh disk and something for us to start again with. Great, was successful. So now we've got a blank disk. We open that up, there's nothing on it. And we've got, of course, our CD. So let's install system software, and I'll come back when it's all done. Okay, so it's installed the system software, but we want also is the TV FM software, and let's hit the installer. Okay, in our extras now we have our Apple Video Player. Let's open it up and see if we have the option to tune in a TV. Well, that's promising. Well, let's manually set up a channel, and we'll call it channel 1, and it's off air. What are our more choices? We can fine tune, we can select our TV standard, our video standard, which is PAL here in Australia, and what kind of sound it is. So let's get OK, and we've got a channel. Great, so now it's working, and we're getting all this static, which is more than we were getting before. And if we have a look at our control panel, you can see that now we have our option to change things for the TV. So there's nothing wrong with the card. There must have been something wrong with that install. We're going to get a little crazy here in the basement. I've got this RF adapter, which is going to go in the back. And the other end of that RF cable is a Master System II. So let's get the keyboard out of the way. And we'll turn it on and see what happens. Straight away, it just works. As Apple, just works. So Alex Kidd of Miracle World, that's the built-in game on the Master System. Why don't we have a little play and just see if it works. We'll make the screen bigger. It's even got audio, just look at that. Okay. Yep, everything just works fine. Well, let's not analyze how good I am at playing this game, but it's incredible. Like it's working. So this is obviously a good solution if you want the world's worst way of playing a Sega Master System. You connect it to a Directors Edition Performa 5400 for that extra authentic experience. Okay, I've packed away the silliness. We don't need the Master System out anymore. We've proved that it works. I've run a benchmark on here, and we've got our results here. So what I'm going to do now is shut it down. We'll pull it apart. I'll show you how to get into it, and we'll put in that L2 cache that Rich's Random Retro Reviews sent us. While we're in there, we'll also throw in the network card as well. Then we'll fire it back up and see what difference the L2 cache makes. So here we are on the back of the machine. There's a couple of screws either side to take out, and one more here. Now underneath are the world's most fragile plastic clips. One here and one here. And I always dread taking these apart because the plastic is so brittle when it gets this old. There's a very real chance you're going to break these clips. This one. That's the other one. We got it. Okay, that's the back plate. So what I really love about these Performers is they're designed to be pulled apart and serviced and upgraded. We have a little handle there that pops down, and you just pull out the whole thing, and that's your computer sitting there. So let's have a look closely what's in here. So this is the board out of the Directors Edition, and this is the board out of the 5200 I showed earlier. What's interesting to note though is that this is actually a 5260 board, so somewhere along the line someone has upgraded the 5200 with a faster processor. So that's a nice bonus. If you look on the motherboard, you see there, that's the input card. They both have them, and we of course have on this one a network card. But unfortunately, as we can see, the expansion slot is different between the two motherboards, so that's unfortunate. This has, I think that's a PDS slot, and that's something else which is different, and we're not going to be able to get that card to fit in there, unfortunately, so that's a shame. We'll have to leave it in the older Performa. But what I will do while I'm in here is remove that battery just in case it starts leaking and destroys this motherboard. So we have no need for this anymore. I'll put this back in and we'll get this out of the way. It can't help us anymore. This is our L2 cache from Rich. It's nicely packaged in an anti-static bag with a sticker. And this L2 cache goes in here in this unpopulated spot here. The other two slots are for RAM, and of course that's our video input card and modem over here. So let's slot it in. Oh, is that in? Or does it go in further? It must click in further. Oh, I don't want to push it too hard. It feels like I'm going to break something. But I'm pretty sure that's not in. Yeah, let's push it harder. That's it. There we go. Nice and firm. Right, well, it's a shame we don't have the network card, but let's slide it back in and we'll see if the performance has increased with our L2 cache in there now. All back together, and it's still booting, so that's a bonus. Let's open up our previous test. Now let's just have a quick look at system info, and L2 cache size. Before this said 0 and now it says 256, so it appears to be working. So let's run the tests again and see how that L2 cache affects performance. Okay, looks like it's finished. I was just giving everything a bit of a clean while it was running. Let's look at our scores. It looks like we have gained a lot of performance. Our previous run was 180 and now we've installed it, we're getting 246. So that's a massive improvement. And again, with the floating point, we're getting 252 versus 216. So that's quite an improvement there. But if we look at the graphics, there's also a huge improvement from 167 to 235. So that's just the 3 tests that I run. So the L2 cache has made a huge difference to this machine, and it really makes me ask the question, why didn't Apple just include it to start with? It would have made these such better machines, but for whatever reason they didn't. But now that we've got one, thanks to Rich, this thing is running as fast as it can. So that's great, it's a great result. So that's been a small look at the Directors Edition of the 5400. It's not that different to a normal 5400 if I'm honest, but I like it. It's got the cool badge on here, and it's something unique to Australia, which makes it quite cool. Well, that's all from me today. If you want to stick around and watch me play games badly, you are welcome. Otherwise, you've been in the basement. Have a great day. Lame. You serious? Come on! How are you supposed to get past that guy?